When the world gets weird and the bills get thick, you call on Clint and you feature Dick. One talks numbers, the other talks slick. Two dads, one mic, yeah, this could stick. Clint's crunching figures straight to the point. Dick's just here to laugh in the joint. It's the Clinterific Show, featuring Dick. Dick's quick with a joke, Clint's got the math. Together they'll balance your checkbook and your laugh. They'll talk finance, fun, and fatherly fails with liquidity dreams and 401k tales. So grab your coffee, join us a ticket, the Clinterific Show, featuring Dick.
Welcome back to the Clinterific Show, featuring Dick. We have been busy this week, and
Busy
we
little
have been
beavers.
expanding our audience. We have ventured over into the realm of
The TikToks?
the TikToks and the Facebooks and Meta and all that stuff. So, that obviously there's some level of popularity for this fitness challenge that we've got going, where I do a push-up for every viewer or subscriber that we have. I'm very grateful that I only agreed to do subscribers, because if I had agreed to viewers, I would still be doing push-ups.
Yeah.
Because my body is not physically capable of doing push-ups that many times.
Is it 20 push-ups now?
Just for that video, there was 475 views on Facebook. I think there was another 100 or so on TikTok. So I'm not positive I could do that many push-ups in a week, much less in a single session, in order to post a video about it. So I will be posting a video about it, which this podcast is probably not going to post until next week sometime. So everybody will have seen me feebly attempt to do more perfect push-ups than I did before, because apparently my push-up form is not exactly perfect. So I guess I need to improve that. I don't know why.
I'm sorry, that comment could go up for understatement of the century. I've watched your push-ups.
Yeah. I mean, listen, they're technically push-ups. I was pushing something up.
Yeah, you were not pushing up your dignity, that's for
I
sure.
sure was not. But my dignity also has a fat ass right now, and that's why I'm doing this challenge.
That's why, yeah.
You know, it's so this is, I don't know that I haven't read any of the science or anything like that on this. I heard about it this weekend. Have you ever heard of what's called a Norwegian 4x4? It's a workout regiment for those of you like Mr. Dick here who have a dirty mind. Because you immediately went into the toilet.
Let's not go down that rabbit hole just yet. We just started. Give it another 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But no, I haven't heard of a Norwegian 4x4. What's that?
4x4.
Right.
So essentially what a Norwegian 4x4 is a exercise regiment. It's designed around increasing your VO2 max.
That sounds like cardio.
Well, it is, but it isn't. So
neither is or it isn't.
Not,
like,
it's
cardio
not,
is
well,
cardio.
No, it's not, because traditional cardio is steady state cardio. So I'm going to go out and run, 2-3 miles at a 4 mile per hour pace. Okay.
4 mile per hour?
Yeah.
Like 1 mile per 4 hours for me.
Well, if you don't run, then it may be lower than that. But I mean, a brisk walk is 3 miles an hour. So if you can't do that, you're just walking quickly.
Or just not.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, for sure, exactly. So, the premise behind a Norwegian 4x4 is,
Okay.
it's designed around a 4 minute sprint, essentially. Not like full on sprint, but like you're supposed to start out running quickly, and you're supposed to get up to around 75% of your max heart rate, which there's this fancy equation. I think it's your age times 1.64 or something like that, or divided by 1.64. I'll have to look it up. I don't know exactly what it is, but for my age, it's something like 170 beats a minute approximately. So, basically that's when you get done doing it, you're gassed. Not like falling over gassed, but you're tired. And you can say maybe 3 or 4 words in a sentence. Without having to take another breath.
So that's hard for me normally.
Right. So you do that for 4 minutes, and then you do a 3 to 4 minute light intensity exercise. So walking, you can do weightlifting, but it cannot be strenuous, because it's essentially supposed to lower your heart rate back down to 50% of your max or something like that. So you do that for 3 or 4 minutes, and then you do another set of the 80 to 95% sprint for the 4 minutes, and you do that in cycles until you do it 4 times. So sprint 4 minutes, recovery for 4 minutes, sprint, so on and so forth. And apparently there was this study done on a guy, which it was done. I think it was done at Harvard, but I'd have to confirm that. Essentially, the premise was they found a very strong correlation between your VO2 max and the strength of your heart, like the age of your heart, for lack of a better term. And so there was this guy. I think did we talk about this last week? I think we talked about it a little bit, but maybe I was talking to somebody else about it. So he was 50 years old. I think he was like 50 or 51. He went in and had a heart test done. And the test results came back, and essentially they told him that he had the heart of a 70-year-old, and he needed to drastically change his lifestyle, or he was probably going to die, I guess, like his father had. And his father had a massive heart attack at like 52 years old or something like that. So obviously, big wake-up call for the guy. He started doing these Norwegian 4x4s. I think he was doing them between 4 and 6 times a week. And he did it every week for a year. So, 4 to 6 times, whatever it was, for an entire year. He came back and they did the testing again, and they said his heart had gone from the age of about 70 down to 40. And his VO2 max was off the charts. And I think he lost like 60 pounds as well. And supposedly he didn't really change anything about his diet. The only thing he did was just the exercise and stuff like that. So, long story short, I decided that I was going to start trying to do some of this stuff because, my family has a history of heart conditions as well. My grandfather died in 88. He had angina. Which
sorry, he had a what?
Angina.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
It is.
I had a flashback to old Greg there for a second. Anyway.
So essentially, it's from what I've read, it's something that is a lot more treatable today than it was 30 years ago. But essentially your heart muscle is not getting enough rich blood. So basically, by the time the blood circulates back to get inside of your heart, not like from a pumping perspective, but like the actual muscle itself getting the blood, it's not got enough oxygen in it, so it starts to essentially fail. It's like if you were not getting enough oxygen while running and your legs started cramping up. They don't function properly because there's not enough oxygen. So anyway, he ended up having a heart attack because of it, and he passed away in 1988. My dad has had 2 heart attacks at this point. So obviously I've got a history of heart condition in my family, and so hearing anything that can improve my heart health that significantly, I'm all about that. Now, that being said, I have always really enjoyed running. You know, that's always been the kind of workout that I've preferred doing. I have not been doing it as frequently in the past 5 or 6 years, but that's just part of, you know, being a father and being married and starting your own business and things like that. Which, you know, reality is they're all excuses. I just have not, you know, stayed in the shape that I want to be, which is why I'm starting to try to do that now. So anyway, long story short, I tried to do that yesterday and it was not fun at all. I am so freaking sore right now. And normally it takes me at least 3 days to get sore. So the fact that I'm already sore, I'm not jazzed about, because I think tomorrow's going to be a freaking nightmare. But yeah, so I did that. I'm gonna do my push-ups tomorrow for our count, which I believe at this point between all platforms is around 30 subscribers.
Wow.
So I've got to do 16 more push-ups than I did last week.
That's good news.
Yeah.
Not 16, 16 more.
Yes, 16 more. So I have to do a total of 30.
Don't shortchange us now.
I will tell everybody definitively right now that I can guarantee you my maximum push-up capacity right now is about 24 push-ups straight. And at that point, my arms will not go back up. So I'm probably going to have to start breaking these up into sets. But I will do my very best to try to get them into one set, at least until 40. And then at that point, I can guarantee you that I will not be doing more than 40 push-ups in a set. So I'll just have to break it up. We're going to have to come up with something besides push-ups eventually, because there is no way if we get 1,000 subscribers by some miracle that I'm going to be able to do 1,000 push-ups in a session, much less in a week.
So, okay, no, you could. I bet you could do it out over a week. You could do it out over a week.
Maybe.
Don't. I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear this quitter talk, Clint.
Okay. I will do.
Okay.
I will pull a Yoda and I will do. There is no try.
Maybe we can make it a group effort, and
we may have to. We may have to.
Yeah, you do 900 of them throughout the week, and then have our editor do about 50, and then I'll do the last 50.
Okay. I will. Editor, I'm the frickin' editor.
I know.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And listen, if this turns into
more involved, have them do 75.
Yeah. So what I'm going to say is, if we get to 1,000 subscribers and we get monetized, what I'm going to do after the monetization has happened, I will still continue doing the 1,000 push-ups in a week. I may have to delegate some of them to you, but I will continue to do the 1,000 push-ups per week. And when we get monetized, I will invest a minimum of 20% of whatever money that we get into which, you know, me and Mr. Dick are partners on this. So my half, I will invest 20% of that into something, and we will watch it grow with apparently my back muscles and shoulders, because I'm going to be doing so many freaking push-ups.
Push-ups work your front muscles, not your back muscles, right?
You don't do them the way I do.
You're doing them really wrong.
I might have to start doing sit-ups just so I can, start leveling off the flab area in my soggy midsection.
I got bad news for you, buddy.
I know how sit-ups work.
You can't spot reduce. It's not how the body works.
Listen, you would be surprised if you
do 1,000. Chop it off.
No, here's the thing: if you do 1,000,
you did that once already. Don't chop off anything else.
No, I'm not chopping. I'm definitely not chopping off anything else. But listen, and I don't care who says that I'm wrong because they're wrong. If you do 1,000 sit-ups.
Science.
Your stomach is going to be so sore, you're going to think you're full all day, and it's a lot easier to not eat as much.
Right, but that doesn't.
That's science.
That does not reduce the fat just in your midsection.
But it does reduce the amount of fat going into your fat gullet. So that's science.
We've created new science this night.
Yeah.
Did I tell you I started? I started jump roping.
You did? Oh, really? I've actually been considering getting a jump rope myself. I really like the.
I'll send you mine.
Oh, that was quick. No,
right now I'm on 2 sets of 100 each, and it usually takes me around 5 minutes to complete. And by the time I'm done, my feet hate me. It hurts.
Oh, it does. That bouncing, yeah.
It's not necessarily. It's not like I'm landing hard. I mean, I am landing, but it's not like hitting the ground is what hurts. I think it's actually the flexion and tension in my feet that my feet are going. Hey, you.
Hey. You're an asshole. Yeah.
My feet hate me.
Yeah. No, I get it. I had a jump rope for a while, and I accidentally left it outside, and the dog got a hold of it and chewed it in half. So it was basically just two whips, and it's just not the same effect when you're jumping rope with two whips. Yeah.
That sounds great for Tuesday nights.
But, I know that there's a lot of benefits for doing jump ropes, specifically for your lymphatic system, because that constant bouncing up and down, it's really good at getting things to loosen up that have not been loosened up in a while.
It sure loosens some stuff up, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Bowels. I mean...
It's a good thing I don't drink coffee on top of it.
Oh, man. Yeah. No kidding. But yeah, so I've actually been considering getting a jump rope myself. Maybe we can be jump rope buddies.
That is one of the gayest things I've heard you say. I'm down.
Oh, man. Well, enough fitness talk.
I got mine in leather. I should have waited about 10 seconds so you had a mouthful of water.
You did.
Oh, got him.
That about went out my nose. Okay.
I thought it'd be cool, like I'm like a boxer,
Yes.
I don't know what I was full of shit.
Yeah. They don't tell you that they jump rope like thousands of times a day.
Yeah, I'm only doing it like 2 or 3 times a week right now.
Yeah.
And when it gets a little easier, I'll add maybe a third set. Because I did try 3 sets
jumps
of 100.
is a lot more than it sounds like.
When you're not used to jump roping, yes, it's freaking murder. And I use my watch to count. Like it does the counting automatically.
Is that a Samsung?
Yeah.
How does that do from like the exercise perspective? Like, does it do pretty good on keeping your heart rate and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think it does. I don't use it for my lifting personally because I have other apps I've always used for that. Yeah. And I find as far as weight training goes, their catalog of exercises is woefully inadequate.
Yeah.
But I don't think that Apple's would be any better either. Or
Yeah,
any
no,
other.
I don't think most of them are intended to really be great for that. That's not what
Yeah.
people are using those kind of smartwatches for anyway, because really
No.
they're intended to be for like biking and heart rate measurements
Right.
and cardio and stuff like that.
But
I
I
mean,
think it
not saying
does
they
a pretty
can't
good
track
job.
those things, but yeah.
I think it does a pretty good job on the jump rope. Like it tells me to get in position. It says assume the position, bitch. I mean, get in position for jump rope.
Yeah, it's a highly motivating
Yeah, it
piece of technology.
really is. And then it's
Get
like,
back at it, you piece of shit.
get into position. Once I get in position, it buzzes and it
Yeah.
says start jumping, piggy.
Start jumping, piggy. Wow, that's amazing.
But it will.
Oh
It'll count the
man.
number of jumps I do, and I think it's based on my wrist moving with
Oh yeah.
the rope.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Interesting. But yeah,
yeah.
I've been thinking about getting one, but I I'm probably going to be switching back to Apple when the 18s come out. Yeah, I know.
Sorry.
I have the problem is like the Google phone that I have, because I have a Google Pixel
Well, there's your
12,
problem.
10, 10, and I have had nothing but issue. It's the phone itself operates fine. Like the battery life is great. It takes good enough pictures and video and stuff like that. But the problem I have is the text messages. I have nothing but problems getting text messages from people. Like if I'm part of a Facebook, like a group chat or something like that, I have issues constantly with either the
Really?
messages not coming through, or I'll get like pieces of the conversation, but some people's come through and others won't. And then there's other times it'll tell me that I have a message that's coming to me, and I'll click to download it like 15 times, and it just nothing comes through. So
That's weird.
I'm sick of it, and
That sounds more like a service problem.
I thought that, but I've had the service provider check as well, and I've never had any issues with AT&T on that on the other end. So
Just a word of note, being someone who works in a technical field, yeah,
oh.
no one ever admits it's their fault when it's
Oh,
their stuff you're questioning.
oh, I'm aware, but the problem is I've not had this issue. I've had this issue with we've switched phone carriers 5 times in the last 6 years. We were with Verizon originally. We switched over to Actually, we switched to Mint. Then we switched to, which Mint was okay. It was much better from a price point perspective because it's way more affordable. But the
Yeah,
problem
15
is,
bucks a month, right? That's
yeah,
what
no,
Ryan
it's a
Reynolds
steal
keeps
from a
telling me.
price. But the problem is, in Northwest Arkansas where we live, there's too much driving through huge gaps in the towers. And so it's not even really that big of a gap, but for some reason the company had a hard time. I'm not entirely sure what you're showing me. Oh, your 3D printer. Okay. I was like, what am I seeing here? But like the problem is if it would go, you would change towers in the middle of a call. Instead of it just switching towers, it would just drop the call. And so it just got consistent enough at that. We were just like, yeah, we're losing too many calls, especially because Anna drives so often all over Northwest Arkansas for the animal shelter and everything else that it was just too much. So we switched from Mint over to AT&T, and then went from AT&T after being with them for about a year over to T-Mobile. T-Mobile worked pretty good for a while, but then I don't know, around 24, we started having issues with them just dropping calls, and there was a big tornado or handful of tornadoes that went through Northwest Arkansas, and it screwed up a bunch of their towers. And after that, the signal just never got fixed. And I don't know if it was because the towers never got fixed or didn't get fixed correctly or what, but it just was too often. So we switched back to AT&T. But I'm there's no loyalty for me to any of these companies. And honestly, if I could stick with Mint in any capacity and didn't have the issues that I had, I would be all over that. But
I've only been on one phone carrier service my entire life, my entire adult life.
Go on.
Verizon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I never have any problems with service.
You know, I never used to have problems, but the issue that we had with Verizon was our service, like the customer service. We had so many issues with phones and stuff like that, where they were supposed to be switching us over and connecting people to our plan, because we were adding people from my family, and they would just screw stuff up for months and not take care of it. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to keep paying you all this money for you to not take care of what we need you to take care of. So that was the main reason that we switched from them. But
right. I mean, I try to interact with customer service as little as possible.
Oh, yeah.
And avoid going into stores to meet with those sleazy sharks. Sorry, I mean salesmen.
Yeah. Yeah.
If at all possible. So
I don't blame you. Yep. Bad business practices.
Anyway,
speaking of bad business practices, that is a perfect segue into our topic of the week. So yeah, I don't know if any of our audience has noticed this or heard or seen anything about it, because it's been kind of happening for a while. Based on what I've researched, maybe over the last 10 years or so.
Wow.
Yeah. So what has been happening is some of these larger casual dining establishments, specifically,
can you define what a larger casual dining establishment
larger
is?
Chain. So Red Lobster is the main one that this has been happening to.
They're still around?
Yes, they are. Oh. And I believe they just brought back their bottomless shrimp for those of you who like to eat crustaceans.
Shrimp.
Yeah. Yeah. But so what has been happening, and you know, a lot of people have just assumed, well, they're going out of business because they're not good anymore. And that's actually not the case.
Yeah, because they were never good.
Well, I'll be the first to admit, I actually like Red Lobster on occasion. They have their Cheddar Bay biscuits. They're delicious. I love those Cheddar Bay biscuits. Their fish and chips are pretty good. They have I like their salmon. They have a salmon Caesar salad. Salmon. A Caesar salad with salmon in it that's really good. Yeah. They have a few seasonal things and stuff like that. Yeah. And of course Anna eats basically everything under the sun, so she's all over the shrimp and all that junk. But yeah, so
I just have a hard time eating seafood when being so far away from a coast.
I don't blame you there. Yeah.
So
yeah, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to go ahead and just embrace the potential for food poisoning and stuff like that, and I'm going to just go to Long John Silver's. But
got him.
Yeah,
eat that Long John Slivers.
Listen, people sleep on Long John Silver's, but they have some really good stuff if you have a good one. And you know, let's be honest. All fast food restaurants have good ones and bad ones. Some have more good than bad. Some have more bad than good.
And then in my town, you have bad Burger Kings and then defunct fentanyl dens Burger Kings.
Yes. And see, here in Arkansas, there's one that just opened. I would say it's probably been about 5 years now that I think about it, but it's, you know, it's new enough here where I live. And we went there the other day and they have this new chicken sandwich thing. I don't know if I was just like maybe somebody slipped me some weed gummies or something like that, and I was just really had the munchies. But it was one of the best sandwiches I've ever tasted at a fast food restaurant. I was shocked at how good that thing was. So, but anyway, back to
you really must have been high.
Yeah, hopefully my employer doesn't start drug testing. But anyway, so what has been happening with Red Lobster, and I believe it has started happening with Olive Garden in some places as well. So a lot of people don't know this, but from a company's perspective,
okay,
Red Lobster and Olive Garden are owned. I believe they're owned by a larger. So, like for example, Taco Bell is owned with a handful of other restaurants by
PepsiCo.
Well, it's by Yum Brands, and I believe that is I believe that is a subsidiary of Pepsi, but I'm not sure about that.
I'm sure about.
Okay, so the Olive Garden is owned by Wait, what? What are you sure about?
Never mind.
Anyway, wow. So Olive Garden specifically is owned by Darden Restaurants. It is a company that you can
Darden Restaurants?
Darden, Darden.
Darden.
Yes. It's one of the largest full-service dining companies in North America. It owns Olive Garden. It owns Longhorn Steakhouse, the Capitol Grill, and Yard House.
Never heard of her.
So Red Lobster is owned by a separate company called RL Investment Holdings. Investor Holdings.
RL Investor Holdings.
Here is where the problem with Red Lobster comes in. Okay. RL Investor Holdings is a private equity company.
Oh, no, you lost me.
Okay, so...
I know what that is. That's the problem.
Yes. So here, I figured that was probably the case because, to be perfectly blunt, I didn't know the legal definition of a private equity firm. So this is what a private equity firm is defined as. Private equity is an investment strategy where firms pool capital from institutional investors and high net worth individuals to buy ownership stakes in private companies or take public companies private. The goal is to actively manage, restructure, and improve these businesses over 5 to 10 years so they can sell them for a profit at a later date. So buy out the vast majority of the shares, force a buyout for the remaining shares, turn the company around, make whatever money you can off of it, and then sell it for a profit. So, Red Lobster is this is the simplest analogy that I've been able to put together. So, you own your house outright. Okay? So, we're going to pretend like Mr. Dick is Red Lobster. Mr. Dick owns his house. Okay?
Yeah, bitches. Own my shit.
Paid for, free and clear.
Yeah.
And then what happens is he is told by his wife that they have to sell it just so they can rent it from the landlord.
It should be tripping.
Right? So you own the house, you sell the house, so you can rent it back from the landlord you just sold it to.
That doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. Well, it does if you know why they did this. So, what happened?
But does it? Does it, though?
I mean, it does and it doesn't. It will make more sense as I explain this. So what has happened is, I'm going to use Red Lobster as the example here. They own the land on which they are doing business, or they did. It's the same thing with McDonald's. McDonald's is the huge mega corporation that it is because they own the land that every McDonald's is built on, and they lease it back to the owners.
Okay.
So part of their franchise fees and rental agreement is that the McDonald's Corporation owns the land. The franchisee pays rent and franchise fees to McDonald's for all the supplies, for the French fries and the burgers and all that stuff, and the advertising materials, all of that. So McDonald's on their balance sheet has an enormous amount of land. It's the same thing with Red Lobster, except for Red Lobster owned the restaurant and they owned the land.
Oh, I think I start to see where this is going.
Right. So, this is what's called the buyout and asset strip. When a Wall Street private equity firm buys a restaurant chain, they rarely care about the restaurant itself, which is why so many of these bigger chain restaurants, you see especially the older ones, are having quality control issues because they're being bought out by these private equity firms who don't care about the restaurant itself. They want the land.
Let's not limit this to restaurants. You could just leave it at private equity firms buy out properties or IPs or whatever for things they don't care about.
Exactly.
Period.
Yes. Yeah.
Not just restaurants.
Right. But in specifically this instance, what they would do is they would buy a restaurant chain.
Uh-huh.
They look at the balance sheet and see something extremely valuable, which is the restaurants actually own the dirt and buildings that they sit on. Sure. Well, the problem with restaurants is the profit margins are significantly lower than a lot of businesses. So, an industry standard for most businesses is probably in the 10 to 20% profit margin range. Restaurants are typically in the 3 to 5%. So if you made $1 million, you would clear $30,000 to $50,000. You're not clearing a ton. So, what they do is after they review their balance sheet and find out that there's an enormous amount of held up value in land and buildings, they immediately sell the real estate to an outside investment company for billions of dollars of cash. Because
this can only be good.
Yes. So then the private equity firm pockets that cash as profit because essentially they did the whole hostile takeover thing. The company sells all of these assets. So they made their investment back on day one.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care if they get anything more because they got their money out of it already. So, step 2 is what's called the trap. They turn the owners into what's called a tenant. I'm sure everybody knows what a tenant is. It's somebody that's renting from you. So the catch is that the restaurant company doesn't get to leave. They are forced to sign a long-term rental or lease agreement for every single location that they used to own because they're in the restaurant.
Wow.
Yeah, and these lease agreements are garbage. So you're already operating at razor-thin margins because you're a restaurant. Then you're getting put into a horrible lease agreement when the only reason that you were really making money before was because the land and the building was paid for.
Yeah.
And now they're not, because you don't even own them. You're paying rent, and so they jack rent up to fair market value for the area you're in. Well, fair market value for the area that a lot of these places are in is in a huge jump in rent compared to not paying anything because it was paid for. Or even if it was just recently paid for. There was a restaurant over about 15 minutes from where I live that they were swamped every single month. I mean, every single day at lunch. They were always pretty busy for supper. Have you ever been to a Nuke's Eatery? It's kind of like a sandwich shop salad. It has a little bit of a Schlotzsky's kind of vibe to it. But
I miss Schlotzsky's.
Yeah. So it's
funny name. Serious sandwich.
Yes. Yeah. Speaking of Schlotzsky's, if you would like to sponsor us, we love your serious sandwiches.
Write to us at we are serious about funny names and sandwiches.
And serious sandwiches, yeah.
At gmail.com.
Exactly, yeah. So anyway, this place, it's called Nuke's. They're fairly common around here. I just don't know where all they originated from. But this place was busy all the time. You know, every time I would go there at lunch, there was a line out the door from 11:30 to 1 o'clock. So they were not hurting for business in any capacity. Well, they ended up going out of business after being there for about 2.5 years. They had to just shut down the location, which I could not believe until I found out how much they were paying rent. Now, this is not a huge town. This was in Siloam Springs, Arkansas. Population of around 18,000, I think now. Maybe 20 at the absolute tops. So this is not a huge city by any stretch of the imagination. Well, this location was, I think it was 4,000 square feet, including the kitchen area. They were paying $11,000 a month for rent, which is insane in this area.
$11,000 a month?
Yes. So I backed into, just doing some accounting math of what their profit margins would have to be in order for them to cover that on top of, all their other expenses and stuff like that. And based on the number of people that I saw going in there, I think they may have been probably losing money as busy as they were, and it was completely because of their lease agreement. But $11,000 a month. It was that I just could not believe that. And so this is what's happening to these restaurants is they're getting bent over a barrel by these ludicrous rental agreements. And, using Red Lobster as the example, they're stuck. This building is already Red Lobster. It's not like they can just go somewhere else. So they're forced into these high payments that they're already operating on pretty thin margins anyway. And so this is what starts to happen. Restaurants operate, like I just said, on there are very razor thin profit margins. When you add a massive fixed rent bill on top of rising food and labor costs like they have been since about 2018, going through the roof, the math stops working immediately. It's just no longer a business that can survive. It just won't work.
Stops mathing.
Exactly. Yeah. So Red Lobster lived this exact nightmare. They were saddled with crushing rent they couldn't afford, leading to missed payments, bankruptcy, and sudden overnight closures across the entire country. Well, this has started to happen because these private equity firms have started to see the profit in that, because what they did, they went in, they took all their profits out, and they forced all of these companies to go into these lease agreements. Okay. Well, they've already made their profit. Now they've got this lease agreement that's giving them even more money.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes the situation better for them. And they don't care about fixing the restaurant or making it a more profitable model anyway, because they've already gotten their money back out of it. If not, 3 or 4x their initial investment.
Right.
So yeah, Olive Garden is starting to run into a very similar situation. It has not hit the quantity of closures that it happened for Red Lobster, but it has started happening. So Olive Garden and its parent company faced heavy pressure from Wall Street investors who don't care about the restaurant chain in any capacity. That this is just about their bottom line and their profit margins. Do the exact same thing with their properties. While they managed to avoid a total collapse, the entire casual dining industry is now feeling the squeeze of this exact same real estate trap. So it's happening to restaurants across the country. And so the reason that I wanted to talk about this is because I know for me personally, I have felt there has been a shift in the quality of restaurants over the past few years. I would say it's been the past decade. And it's very unfortunate because, I realize that Olive Garden is a chain and Red Lobster is a chain. And I like to eat at local restaurants just as much as the next guy. But it's a very difficult day to beat some Olive Garden breadsticks. They're good. They're consistent. And for a company to be coming in and trying to do a hostile takeover of some of the few restaurants that are still in existence that have that, nostalgic feel because they've been staples of our lives for 30 plus years now, that it really is sad because it takes away from that experience of Americans to be able to go to a restaurant that they know is consistent, they could get something they want, and not have to go to the, try something new and get an experience that you never are quite sure what you're going to get. Because like I said, I like going to local owned stuff, but it's a crapshoot. Sometimes they're good, sometimes you just have no clue what you're going to get as far as quality or consistency or anything like that, because this is just, a mom and pop shop that's figured out how to make pretty good sandwiches or a decent burger or decent enchiladas or whatever you want to call it. And they don't have the process ironed out to an art form at this point. Not that I'm equating Olive Garden to an art form in any capacity. But from a consistency perspective, it really is that, because in order to make food that consistent across all locations, that really does take an enormous amount of preparation and intention.
Sure.
That's one of the things that a lot of people don't understand why McDonald's is so successful. I can tell you right now that the vast majority of the reason that McDonald's is so successful, mainly besides the price point, which no longer is really a factor, because it used to be like I could go to McDonald's and spend $10 and we could feed our whole family and be stuffed, and you can't do that anymore. But the consistency was enormous for somewhere like McDonald's. I could go to one in Arkansas and it would be the same as in Florida, as in California, as in New York, and across the board. You're going to get an incredibly consistent, maybe not prepared as high level of quality. Some of them obviously are worse than others, but if you got a plain cheeseburger at any of those locations, it's going to have the same flavor, the same texture, the same consistency, probably the same temperature, all that stuff. And that's difficult to achieve, but they've done that very well. And so, like I said, to take these restaurants that have a huge level of nostalgia for a lot of Americans,
institutions.
Yeah, exactly. And
so
create a problem for them as they're buying them. It just doesn't make I'm sorry, just be better. I get that you want to make some money, but this is my biggest point here is I am a very much pro-capitalism individual. I think capitalism has led to some of the greatest advances in our world and in our society. Mm-hmm. That being said, there's always a problem with every system because of excessive greed. And this is one of those examples of buying out a company that is successful to liquidate and basically make them and force them to be unsuccessful. I'm sorry, that's just you're just a garbage person or garbage company, whatever you want to call that.
So here's my hot take on this though, because some of these companies that are selling out to these private equity firms, I feel like they should have had, at least by now, they should know what they are getting into. And
and that's the rub, because the problem is, and I don't disagree with you, they should know what they're getting into. But the problem is, even if they did, I don't think they can really do anything about it, because if they're a publicly traded company and somebody like Elon Musk decides he's going in and buying it, he's worth $1 trillion. There is nothing that, if he decided he was after, Taco Bell, there's nothing that, if he was just like, okay, I am furious at Taco Bell for how they've handled this whole food poisoning thing, and how they made so many people sick or whatever, which arguably has been disproven at this point. But let's just say that he decided that was his vendetta, and he goes and says, I'm going to go buy the Taco Bell brand to bury it and shut every one of them down. He could do that, and there's not really anybody that could stop him, other than the ones that own it right now. But it's a publicly traded company, so if it's valued at $3 billion and he goes and offers 10, and he's just dead set on getting rid of them, he could do that.
I guess my other point about it is, though, you and I being fans of free market capitalism, the market is going to adjust. There will be someone who will step up into that space, and hopefully they'll learn from their predecessors and say, hey, we're either not going to go public or we're going to keep a controlling stake, make sure that you've got, the CEO or whoever, the founders have got 51% of shares.
Yep.
So that
and
this
never
can't
let go
happen.
of that, because if you do, that means you could lose control of the entire company.
Yeah, I feel like, it kind of sucks. I'm not really a Red Lobster guy, so
I get that. And I'm not huge on Red Lobster myself. Right. It's not one of my favorite restaurants. I'm just talking about it from a perspective of...
No, I get it. I get it. I'm not a huge, Olive Garden fan either, but I've definitely eaten there a lot. And you're right. It is nice to be able to go travel cross country and see a familiar brand and say, yes, I know what I'm going to get there.
Exactly.
Because for our 3 subscribers who live outside the U.S., it's a very large country.
Yep.
It's equivalent to driving across several European all European countries and more.
Yep.
So it's a country that spans the width of a continent.
Yeah.
So being able to go from one side of it to the other and find places you know what you're going to get. I mean, presumably, as long as they don't spit in it.
Largely consistent.
Yeah, largely consistent. You know, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yep.
Honestly though, I do like to try new things when I go to
I
a
don't
new
disagree.
city.
Yeah, I do too. I almost intentionally make a point of it when we go on any kind of family vacation to try to force myself to eat something that I don't have access to at home. Whatever that is.
That being said though, having kids, you know what? It's nice to have a Taco Bell wherever it is because we know the kids can eat something there. They may not eat something at a local mom and pop place.
Right.
So.
And I think that's probably something that was more important for my family in the growing up in the 90s and even the 80s as well, because I was born in 86 and my mom is a vegetarian. And so for us growing up, McDonald's was not a thing. Burger King was not a thing. We could not go there because she couldn't eat anything. So when we go out to eat, it was Taco Bell or Pizza Hut. Those were the two options that we had because they had consistent and always had vegetarian options. You know, there were a handful of locations that, you know, for example, like there's a burger place here in Siloam as well that's called Barnett's. My parents grew up, like they started going there when they were in high school, and they had a veggie burger. They've been making veggie burgers since the 70s because there was a huge community of vegetarians in the area. And so, yeah, it was not a big deal for them to have that because they were consistently selling them. But that was not the norm for anything like that. And so, so from that perspective, you know, kind of what you're talking about, to be able to go across the country and have some level of knowledge that you could just go into a restaurant and get something consistent and get something that you could actually eat, you know, whether you had some kind of food allergy or something like that, you know, some people just don't have the time to, which obviously with food allergies and the internet now, you have a hard time making that excuse, but that's a fairly new phenomenon. And up until about 2005, that was not an option. You couldn't just go figure out what they had on their menu and what all was in it. You had to know somebody who went there that, like, oh, I'm a vegetarian and I tried it out and I got this and this and this and it was really good. Okay, well, I'll go try it. But that's why we ate Mexican food all the time, which is why probably that's my favorite kind of food is Mexican food. So anyway.
I don't know that Taco Bell qualifies as Mexican food strictly.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it does qualify as Mexican food, but I'm not saying that it doesn't. It fits the bill close enough as far as I'm concerned. It's a burrito. I'll reclassify myself. I like burritos.
We know.
Big, thick, juicy burritos.
You like those white tortillas too?
I do.
I bet you do.
Although I have recently found, which, you know, for those of you who do live in Northwest Arkansas, we started going to this new Mexican restaurant that just opened up fairly recently.
La Huerta?
It's called Casa Alejo. They have the best fajitas I have ever tasted. They are spectacular. So for those of you who have not ventured into the newly renovated and redesigned downtown Springdale, Casa Alejo is excellent. Yeah. Great chips, great salsa, really good cheese dip. And excellent. Anna got these nachos that have like they're called skillet nachos. So what they do, and this I don't know of any restaurant that I've ever seen that does this. They take a layer of cheese and put it over the skillet, and then they pile the nachos on top of that, and then they grill the skillet with the nachos and the cheese and stuff, and more cheese on top of it. So it actually has it's almost like a crust on the bottom of the nachos that you could just fold up into a little cheese taco if you wanted to. But they're really good too.
Sounds crusty.
It is. It is very much so. But who doesn't love a good crust?
I mean, a good crust is a great thing.
And how?
Yeah.
So,
anyway.
So yeah, I'm gonna do probably try to do at least a 2 or 3 part series on this this stuff with Olive Garden and with Red Robin. But this was kind of just the introduction.
Call them out.
What's been going on with that, and I thought that people would find that interesting. If you have noticed, and it's not just these 2 restaurants. There's other restaurants that have experienced something like this as well, but these 2 are the ones that seem to be experiencing it the harshest in the current economy. But
have you ever heard of what happened to Quiznos?
I know I did watch a YouTube documentary about it. And I know that the biggest problem they had was rapid overexpansion.
Yeah.
Because in 2007, was like, in 2003, Quiznos was not a thing. And then in 2007, they were everywhere. Everywhere. And I ate at Quiznos all the time. So my freshman year of college, I worked at an auto shop that was like literally right across the street from Quiznos. I ate there all the time. And I loved every bit of it. I loved Quiznos. I am so bummed that they went out of business. The only thing that's even come close as far as like sub sandwich quality, as far as I'm concerned, has been.
Do not say Subway. Do not say Subway.
It's Subway.
I will punch you through the camera.
No, not Subway. Not even close. Jersey Mike's.
Yeah, but
they're not the same kind of sandwiches.
No,
because you can get a hot Jersey Mike's sandwich, and it's still not the same as a Quiznos sandwich.
I do like Jersey Mike's. But I would still take Quiznos over Jersey Mike's. Hot take. The other problem with Quiznos was the franchising. The way they did the franchising, I think.
Yep. They did not do near enough vetting of the franchisees.
And didn't corporate make them buy, the franchisees make them buy from corporate? Like they couldn't locally source stuff. They had to buy. So
that's not uncommon for chains like that. They have strict quality control standards that are met by the franchise. So the franchisee's pretty consistent because that's why you get consistency at a franchise location like that. So Burger King and McDonald's and Taco Bell, they're getting their stuff from corporate, which is why it's consistent. So corporate's the one making all of it, and they're sending it out to the individual locations. It's not crazy for Quiznos to have had that experience. And I would say that probably any other sub places, Firehouse and Jersey Mike's and
Firehouse is good.
I do like Firehouse as well.
I do feel like Firehouse is closer to Quiznos than Jersey Mike's as far as
I agree.
The kind of sandwiches.
Yeah.
I do like Jersey Mike's better than Firehouse though.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And Subway is one of those restaurants that it scratches an itch. It's like, okay, I haven't had a cold cut combo for a year, and there's not really much that tastes like a cold cut combo. So it's like, I like that flavor. I want to go get a sandwich with a comical pile of vegetables on it. I'm going to go there because they're the only ones that don't charge you an arm and a leg for getting all the different vegetables and stuff on there.
Wait, you're talking about Subway?
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to make a comment, but never mind.
But
There is something that tastes a lot like Subway.
go on.
Just roadkill.
Wow.
I mean, actually, no. I think roadkills can be prepared better.
Subway is one of those restaurants that there is a larger variance in quality depending on location. I have
No,
been to good Subways and I have been to bad ones. I do agree that there are some bad ones, and if it's bad, it's pretty bad.
yeah. I mean, yeah. There are definitely some bad ones. All of the ones that have the word Subway printed on the top of them.
Okay. Well,
I don't like Subway at all.
yeah.
Like I don't it doesn't matter. Like yes, they are consistently awful
Yeah.
everywhere. I
Listen, I'm
would
not going to argue with you. I don't think they're amazing. I think
damn
there's
right.
definitely better sub sandwiches out there, and they're probably
Literally
in the
anything
lowest
is
level of
better.
the tier. You know, if I was making here's my tier list of sub sandwiches, and this is my personal preference. And unfortunately, what I would put in the S tier has gone out of business because of COVID, and there's nothing I can do about that. But there was a restaurant called Fatiga's here in Siloam Springs. They had the
The Tigers?
best sub sandwiches. They made their own bread from scratch, and they were spectacular. And they unfortunately went out of business like right before COVID, and then they had one of their main employees decide to start up a offshoot restaurant, and they called it Torpedoes. Um, and they were just as good as Fatigas, but they went out of business shortly after that. Um, and I think a lot of that was because of their rent agreement, because the location they were at was not a perfect location. It wasn't a bad one. It just wasn't great. And I think they were paying too much in rent. If they were a food truck, I think they would still be in business to this day and they would be making a killing.
Seriously though, food trucks are where it's at because
Yep.
they don't pay. They don't have to pay rent on a place, right?
I mean, they got to
It's
pay. They got to
literally
pay for the truck, but most
right,
of the
but
time
like
that's a pretty
paying
simple.
for a truck is a
Some
lot
of them
less
have
than
to
paying
pay.
for property.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But some of them do have to pay for the location that they're staying at, because of these food truck stops have started becoming a thing. So there'll be like 6 or 7 of these food trucks in one
Yeah.
spot, and so what's happening is the land is being leased out to them, um, with utilities and stuff like that because they got to have power and all that. But yeah,
Not
so
not if they get a good generator.
you can't. I mean, you could have a generator, but you're better off just paying to have electricity, for most places, especially with gas prices what they are right now.
That's why you do a deal with a gas station. There's this
Yeah,
place in Oregon when we lived there. There's literally it was a Sinclair, and they had a food truck that did business right there on their property. Like, there's your gas.
really?
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah. It
interesting.
was good. It was a good place. It was really good food too.
You
Mexican food.
know, I I'm gonna go on a rant here because
Here we go. Hold
yeah,
on to your
like
seats, kids.
so this whole gas prices thing is just getting to me because I thought the prices were starting to recover a little bit, and I drive by the gas station this afternoon. It's $3.99 a gallon here. I don't know what it is up there, and I know we're lower than a lot of the country, but it's still just chaps my ass to drive by a gas station and it's not $2.10 when it
Gosh,
should be, you know. And
I haven't paid $2.10 for gas in well over a decade.
and what's frustrating about this whole ordeal is it's like, Trump runs on this platform of fixing all of the economy screw ups that Joe Biden has caused, and
Sure.
I'm going to make egg prices go down and fix all of the food prices and all this other stuff. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I have noticed that going to the grocery store has been slightly less expensive. Egg prices Did you just cut yourself? Holy shit. Are you okay? Like real bad or?
No, it's not bad.
Oh, okay.
It just drew blood.
Oh, okay. But like we got to fix egg prices and milk prices and blah blah blah. They're so stupid expensive because of all the insanely dumb things that Joe Biden did while he was in office. Okay, well, that's all well and good. Now you fix that, but the gas is screwed now.
Yeah.
Like you can't fix one thing and screw up the other thing that most people still have to pay for. $4 a gallon gas, and I don't even know what the average is, but $4 here is stupid. Fix that shit. Whatever your problem is, like, stop dicking around with this stupid war crap in Iran or Iraq or whatever, and fix our gas prices. So yeah, that's rant. I guess you could say rant over. Not that was much of a rant, but
Clint for president 2028.
Yeah. No, I would not be a good president. I would be a terrible president. I do not have a political bone in my body. Giggity. No pun intended, for sure. I also have never had a political bone in my body. But anyway, yeah. So tier list of sub sandwiches. I would say that Fatigas and Torpedoes are up at the S tier, SSS tier, and then I would put Jersey Mike's at upper A, if not lower S tier. I have had consistently great experiences at Jersey Mike's. So I would definitely put them at the top, towards the top of my tier list from the the chains and stuff like that. Probably close behind Jersey Mike's, I would have to put Firehouse subs. They're good. I like their subs. I think their price points hurt them a little bit.
Yeah.
If I buy their biggest sub, I feel like I'm not getting enough for what I'm paying. So I think they could definitely improve on that end from a pricing perspective. So I would put them at the probably in the upper B tier, maybe approaching A, but I would put them in the B tier.
Wow.
Jimmy John's. Jimmy John's is interesting, and I would say I'm going to put them in C tier.
You remember when they used to be subs so fast you'll freak?
Oh yeah, no, like it was crazy how fast you could get a sub. Like I remember ordering one like to be delivered, and I could not believe how fast it got to me. And they're not that way anymore. At least the ones around where I live.
Nope, none of them are anymore. They added way too much to their menu.
They're good enough sandwiches. It's not like I'm eating a garbage sandwich or anything like that.
Yeah.
They're decent. I don't like the options that they have, or the lack of options, I guess I would say. Because if I'm getting a sub with vegetables and stuff on it, I want more than just lettuce, tomatoes, and onions. I like to get a little bit of a variety of different things on my sandwiches. And when you're limited to literally lettuce and tomato and tomato, onion, and cheese, and they don't even come with cheese standard like that you're hurting your score as far as I'm concerned.
See, but that's why that was kind of why they got big in the beginning, was that the idea was it was subs so fast you'll freak, and to accomplish that they kept it minimal and in simple, so that you didn't have a lot of people trying to take time to decide, or the workers
that's true,
having to reach for a whole bunch of different things each time. They could make you got a handful of sandwiches, they're made the same way every single time. That's how it goes fast. And then they added too much to the menu, too many customization options, too
Right.
many other things. And though I don't mind some of them, like, their whole wheat bread instead of the French, whatever the French toast bun, whatever it is, um, was really good.
Yeah.
But you're adding more complexity to the menu.
Yeah.
It's not going to be fast.
Yep. Yep.
So
Complexity does not equal speed, for sure.
yeah.
So yeah, like I said, I would put Jimmy John's as they are right now. I would put them in the C tier. If they were way more consistent at the speed, they could probably bump up to a B tier. But I would say in the current state they're in a C tier. Quiznos is another, which there's not very many of them left. I know there still are some regionally. I would still put them in. I would say they're probably more in the A tier at this point. I definitely would put them in S tier above Jersey Mike's in the the late 2000s, like between 2006 and about 2010. That was when they were in their heyday, and Quiznos was excellent. I still think they have really good sandwiches, and their toasting machines, I would argue, are close to the best, if not the best. And that's why Quiznos is so high on the list for me. But I would say currently they're in the A tier.
So we're getting a new one here in town. I'm excited. So they've been apparently. I don't know. I'd have to look it up, but whatever company owns the gas station's pump and pantry puts Quiznos in their stations, and we're getting a new pump and pantry in town. So I'm super excited about that.
Nice.
Because I love me some Quiznos.
Okay.
What was I going to say? You brought up a point. I'm trying to remember now.
About their toaster?
Was that it? Just the way they toast. Yes, I was gonna say. I remember, like when Subway was trying to compete. It's like, oh yeah, we toast subs now. Let me put this in the microwave.
The shit out of them.
The fuck?
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
They just made Quiznos that much better.
Exactly. Yeah, they just made them look better by comparison. Like, oh man, they really don't know how to toast things.
They do not.
I would definitely agree there. So yeah, Quiznos is definitely still at least A tier to me. I think if they got their stuff in order, I think they could easily go back to competing with Jersey Mike's, and I think they could be put into the S tier as well. But they've got a long road ahead to fix all the screw ups from overexpansion and quality control that they had there for a while. So another one that is not as well known from what I understand, and I guess they're a little bit more regional, which it looks like there's some in Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma. They're expanding in this region.
Go on.
It's called Pickleman's.
Never heard of her.
So they're pretty new. The one in Northwest Arkansas where I live has been open for about a year. And then there's another one that's a little bit closer to Bentonville, which is where Walmart headquarters is.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's technically in Rogers, but it is close to 4 or 5 years old at this point, I think. And they're not more like your traditional only sub sandwiches. They have subs. They're small subs, but they also have like pizzas and stuff like that you can get, lettuce wraps. So they have a little bit more variety. So I don't know if I would technically throw them in the sub shop category, but they do have good sandwiches. I would probably put them in the B tier from a quality perspective because they've got good, well-seasoned bread, great flavor. They've got good meat, and they toast them, and they toast them pretty well, consistently. So that's one of the other places that I would say is probably in the B tier. And then Firehouse. No, we've already talked about Firehouse.
Yeah, we talked about Firehouse.
Oh, okay. So this is another one that's pretty new in my area, and I don't know if you've ever been to one. It's called Potbelly Sandwiches.
Nope.
They are probably closer to your Panera Bread kind of thing.
Oh man, I don't like Panera. Their quality like plummeted.
I don't disagree with you. I think there are some that are still very good, but I do think that they are not nearly as consistent as they used to be. But Potbelly's is their toasted sandwiches. They have some more unique flavors and chicken like in sandwiches and stuff like that.
Okay.
So they have like a Cuban, it's called a Cubano sandwich. They have some soups and they have some salads and stuff like that. To me, I would put it probably in the C tier, mainly just from a perspective that they are toasted, but they seem to put, with the ones that I've tried there, too much moisture from various sources, whether it's from the dressing or from the meat or from the cheese, whatever that is. And so when I get a toasted sandwich, by the time and I do not live far from Potbelly's at all. So by the time I get home, if the sandwich is soggy, you've got too much moisture in what you're cooking.
It's too moist.
Yeah. And I what did I get? It was like a chicken parmesan or something like that. It had a good flavor.
Yeah.
Okay, sandwiches. Here we go. What is it called? No. Mediterranean. Yeah, that's what it was. Okay, so it's a Mediterranean sandwich. It's grilled chicken, feta cheese, hummus, artichoke hearts, roasted peppers, and cucumbers. It was good. It was a decent sandwich. It was just soggy by the time I got it, which was not very long from when we ordered it. I mean, we live like 5 minutes down the road from this place, so it's not like it should have been as soggy as it was. So I was just a little bit disappointed with that. It probably would move up a full tier eating in the restaurant, but you know, if you can't wait, if your sandwich can't wait 10 minutes for you to get it home and it's that soggy, there needs to be something changing with the recipe as far as I'm concerned. At least for a toasted sandwich. If it was a cold sandwich, it probably wouldn't have been that bad. But, you know, some of these sandwiches, they just don't work cold. So yeah, I would put them in the C tier for right now, but I would not be opposed to moving them up if they didn't get soggy so fast. And I'm looking at a list here of other sandwich shops, and like I'm trying to stick to mainly subs that I've ever eaten. Schlotsky's obviously is not a sub shop, so I would not put them in this tier list in any capacity.
Yeah, but they would be like S tier anyway.
I would put them in A to S tier for sure. Schlotsky's has always been one of my favorite places. Schlotsky's is hurting right now, in my perspective, because of the time. The problem is so many of these fast casual restaurants have lost that fast aspect of their restaurant, and they're not fast at all anymore. And so that's the problem I have. Like if I go to the drive-through at Schlotsky's, I could be sitting there at the window for 15 minutes for them to make 3 sandwiches. And I'm sorry, that's just too long. You know.
I guess I wouldn't go through the drive-through at Schlotsky's.
I don't typically do that, but you know, often for us we get done, especially during tax season, we get done late eating and stuff like that. Get late to even go to the restaurant. We're not going to take the kids and sit down in the restaurant, so we just get it to go. And so,
Fair.
Yeah, it just takes, to me, it takes a little bit longer than it should. you know, like I said, the fast casual dining experience, it should be more on the fast side as far as I'm concerned, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, if they're swamped, I get it, you know. But if I'm the only person in the drive-through and it takes you that long to get you know, a few sandwiches made, it's like, okay, let's speed it up a little bit, you know. But yeah, I would definitely agree with you. I would put Schlotzsky's in the A to S tier. If they were faster, definitely S tier. But I think for me personally, right now, I would be probably putting them closer to the top of A tier. So yeah. You know, there's a handful of other ones that I see on here. Blimpies is.
Oh man, that takes me back. Do they still exist?
They do somewhere apparently.
What?
I have not been to a Blimpies in
Decades. Yeah, dude, I remember. Blimpies was a lot like Subway.
Yeah.
But for some reason I liked it better. I don't know why.
Yeah. I think their bread was better.
I think they weren't Subway.
Maybe.
Let's see. Where's my Blimpie?
Oh man.
Put in my.
I'm trying to see if there's a location finder on here.
There is. Top right.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Oh, actually, there's one pretty close to me.
The closest one to me is in Joplin, Missouri, and that's almost 2 hours away. So that's too far for me to drive for a Blimpies.
But hey, look, there's one coming soon to Dallas area, Fort Worth.
Oh,
so you could drive there?
If I was that's the thing. Like, if I'm gonna be out of town and it's something like that, it better be worth me going to. And I've got to be in a very specific mood for a sub sandwich. Now, if Fatiga's opened up in Dallas, hell yes, I'm gonna drive down to Dallas and go to a Fatiga's. But that was a mom and pop shop that it's not going to be open ever again. So I've come to terms with that.
Yeah.
Whether I want to or not, it is what it is.
There's one way in Casper, Wyoming. That's interesting. There's a couple in Iowa, eastern Iowa.
Really? Yeah. That's one of the things that's so funny about some of these restaurants is the locations that they're at. But yeah, so there's a handful of other ones on here, but I've never been to them. So Blimpies, from what I remember, I would probably put them on the C tier. You know, reasonably decent, better than Subway, which Subway is in the D tier right now for me. Like, I'll eat there, but it's not going to be consistent for me.
You gotta drag me in to eat it, and I'm gonna be bitching.
It's like, okay, I'm driving through town, and I need to eat a reasonably quick sandwich that has some level of nutritional value, because I can basically put an entire salad on the sandwich for no extra charge.
And unfortunately, the dive bar rat-infested restaurant's closed, so I guess I'll eat at Subway.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what Subway is.
Listen, Mr. Dick here obviously has a vendetta against Subway that I do not have.
I mean,
I like them better than he does, apparently. So
it's not hard. It's not hard, actually.
Yeah. But yeah. Well, that's our tier list for sub sandwiches for today. So kind of got off totally a little bit of a segue into whatever the hell that was. But yeah, that's our whole shtick for this week, and we're gonna wrap things up early because we have a special episode next week. So
super special.
Yes, we have one of our guests that I've been trying to get to come on for an interview coming in next week. Mrs. Kristen Borth. She is a unique skill set individual who works as she's a professor at a school in California. I'm drawing a blank on what the name of the school is, but she has a very unique education background. So she works as a professor for the field that she works in, and she's also the chief executive officer for her company as well. So they do coding and programming for hospitals and things like that. So she'll be able to tell you some significantly better detail about her job responsibilities and things like that. But we're going to do an interview with her and talk to her about her career and what that looks like, and hopefully it'll be a great interview, and we'll get to educate some people on some different opportunities for career paths. So,
didn't you tell me it was Greendale Community College she taught at?
No. Greendale. Yeah, no. It's definitely not Greendale. But yeah, no, I'm drawing a blank on what the name is, but she's I think she's one of the only teachers that they have that teaches this specific class because of the skill set that she has. So it'll definitely be interesting. So yeah, look forward to that interview coming in next week, and we're gonna jump over the going deep segment this week because we have had a long and crazy week. My 8th anniversary was yesterday, and
can't believe it's been 8 years.
Yeah, it has been, and we made the
where's the time gone?
Yeah, we made the decision to go up to Branson for our anniversary, and took the kids to Silver City on Monday, and it was the hottest day in Branson on record this year. I think it was 99 degrees with a heat index of like 112. It was so hot. Like we got out of the car and basically were on a straight sprint straight to the American Plunge for those Silver City veterans, which is basically the fastest ride you can get to that will mostly guarantee that you will be drenched. And
nice.
and so we went straight there, and that didn't get us drenched enough, so we immediately left that and went to the battleship area where they have those little hand crank squirt guns that there's the people who are on the shore that are squirting at the people on the boat.
Yeah.
And we rode that around for a while, and my dad got into a little bit of a war with this family that was right ahead of us because the kids kept squirting him. And so he went around to every one of the gun stations because they kept squirting him when he was just standing out around the little lake area that it's in. And so he finally he was like, I'm done with this. So he just walked around to every gun and squirted them right in the face. And apparently the kids got back on it or something like that. And so we finally get off the ride because it's like a 10-minute ride because the boat's moving so slow. We finally get off and go over to get them so we could go to the next ride. And it looked like somebody had literally taken him, picked him up, and just thrown him in the lake. He was drenched, just drenched, which I'm sure he felt amazing because of how hot it was that day. But
yeah,
we laughed for 10 minutes because he was just so soaked. So yeah, but yeah, so we have had a lot less time than I would have liked. But my goal is to post the video of my push-ups tomorrow, and then we'll hopefully get this video posted on Monday, and we're going to be doing our interview on Tuesday. So so tune in next week for the wonderful interview episode, and that's our episode for this week.
Another exciting adventure of the Clinterific show.
Yeah, the adventures of Clint and Dick. We need to have a closing credits show. I mean, a song.
We do.
We've
Yeah,
got a
we
pretty
do.
catchy intro song, but we need to get one for the rolling credits at the end. So if y'all have any kind of music that you would like to see us, for those of you who have stuck around for the hour and 33 minutes that we've been talking, give us a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Go grope the thumbs up button and maybe
Yep.
subscribe so I can do more push-ups. And
Don't forget to tickle that bell.
yeah,
tickle
tickle
that
the
bell.
subscription, the notification bell, so you can find out when we post our videos, because we're posting videos on YouTube. And if you have a type of music that you would
And
like to
other
have
places.
add it in there. We'll check it out.
Go out there and make it a great one, guys.
Yeah, it's a day, so do what he just said.